In this video, we will understand the ASME B31.3 applicability, which industries and fluids are covered.
So now let us see what is the what does the introduction to the piping code mentions. So we have seen some of the points now in the first slide itself. So there will be a bit of repetition. The code talks about safe design. Mainly, the code itself in the introduction talks about that the main purpose of this is going to be for safe design of the plant. The next purpose is going to be safe construction of pressure piping, because that is going to be the most hazardous design, and the effects are going to be very much hazardous if the design is not done properly. So the safe construction of pressure piping is the next motto of the piping codes. And we all of us have to remember that code is not going to be a design handbook. That means you just simply don't open the code and start blindly following it. The code says that it is giving you a lot of data to use, and it is at the discretion of the user to see how much that code information is to be used, and which are all the places where you can overrule the requirements of the code, or you can have some local requirements. For example, our one of our friends is working in Southeast Asia, so maybe his country has got a code which is giving some directions for design. So then he has to follow the main requirements which are locally bound, and then the other requirements as per the code which are perhaps not available in particular code at the local places. So the client and the consultant or the designer, they will sit together and they will decide as to which part is to be applicable and which part is going to be overruled by some other requirements. And then finally, it also talks about engineering judgments. It doesn't leave anything to the or it doesn't say anything is binding on it. You are always given a free hand to use your own engineering judgments. So always think of your better engineering judgments, and you can always use those judgments which will be overriding the requirements which are given by the code. Is that point clear? So what is the introduction of the piping code itself? It gives you 4 specific requirements which are given in these 4 blocks: safe design, safe construction of pressure piping. It also states that it is not a design handbook, and it is giving you a liberty to use your own engineering judgments. Now with that, let us come to the chapter 1, scope and definitions. What it talks about is the number 1 is it talks about the responsibility of the owner. So what is the owner's responsibility in this? The owner of a piping installation shall have the overall responsibility of the compliance with this code. So the owner is mainly responsible for the overall design of the of his plant according to this code, and the owner has to identify which are which services or which piping of this plant will fall into those specially mentioned chapters which we discussed about just a while ago. So which of the piping is falling in say category D fluid or category M fluid? We will discuss about those category M, D fluids further down, but these are supposed to be some special category of fluids which will require a special attention to the design. Then the high pressure or high purity fluid services. So it is the responsibility of the owner to tell the designer, because designer does not know which service is going to be fitted into high pressure piping, or which service is going to be a high purity service, or which category of fluid can be classified as category M. So this responsibility is given to the owner, and owner has to be responsible for passing on such information to the designer, so that designer can take appropriate action on those particular services, areas, or plants. So next point that it talks about is the responsibility of the designer. Now, what is the responsibility of the designer? The designer is responsible to the owner for assurance that the engineering design of the piping complies with the requirements of this code, and the other requirements also which are given by the client to the designer. So as we discussed just now, for example, if uh, people are working in India, maybe there are some codes which are overruling the requirements of the American codes. So, so the local requirements of the codes are going to be overruling the requirements of the American codes. So, for example, in India, the Indian boiler regulation is going to be overruling some of the requirements of the designs of the steam piping. Then there will be some statutory requirements also. So, for a plant design, so how much space is to be allocated around any plant, or for hazardous area storage of any chemicals or fluids, what is the minimum distance required from the main plant. So all such requirements are going to be governed by the local authorities, and the designer has to be aware of such things, and he should be able to give that particular information and guidance to the owner, that he will satisfy all those requirements of the code plus the local requirements which are bound by the local authorities in that area. So it also says that whatever plant is already in design or in working stage, or in the stage where the code before the effectiveness of the code is already in place, then it is not to be applied. So it says that this does not apply to the piping that has been already placed in service, that is relieved of the requirements of this, and it is totally the responsibility of the designer and the owner of the plant. So the base code, as we discussed some time back, is chapters 1 through 6. That we can call it as the base code. And the last 4 chapters that we talked about are going to be the special requirements in case of very few services or plants in the system. So these are the main things which are given in this. It also then further specifies, so what are the other requirements? Scope and definitions. So it talks about following it covers the piping design of which of the industries. So these are the industries that we will see one by one. So one is the paper industry, refineries, petroleum products. Then it talks about chemicals. Then it talks about pharma industry. It talks about textiles, ore processing, semiconductor or cryogenic services, and food plants. So you can see that a number of industries which are there in the service already for the process plants, they are widely covered in this particular design of process piping code B31.3. So this is talking about the type of industries. So coming to the scopes and definitions, what are the fluids that it is going to cover? So earlier we saw what are the industries that are being covered. Now it talks about what are the fluids that are going to be covered in this. So the fluids are going to be finished chemicals, raw and intermediate materials, petroleum products, gas, steam, and air. So somebody was talking about steam. So steam is also covered in 31.3. Then we have fluidized solids, refrigerants, and finally the cryogenic fluids. So these are the various fluids which are covered under this. So you can see a wide variety of industries as well as wide variety of the fluids which are getting covered in this particular code, which is uh, process piping B31.3.
Want to stand out in the field of mechanical engineering? It starts with Scootoid eLearning. Our expertly crafted courses are Master Static Equipment Design with PV Elite. This course includes ASME Section 8 Division 1, TEMA Standards, Column Design and PV Elite, Master Welded Storage Tank Design as per API 650, ASME Section 8 Division 2, along with FEA Report Reviewer. Fitness for service with respect to API 579-1. Piping design code, stress analysis and Caesar 2. And that's not all at Scootoid, we believe in continuous learning. Along with our paid, professional courses, we also conduct free webinars and workshops to help you explore real-world engineering topics and gain practical insights. To know more about our courses and upcoming webinars and workshops, click the links in the description below.